me a little bit of Rainer's journey to KATEK and what kind of led you to your arrival in the EMS industry.
I started my career, at one of the big giants, of the European industry, which is Siemens. And I worked many years for Siemens. And as you know, Siemens, is a leading player in, much of the, power generation, healthcare, and at this point of time, it was also IT, by the way, something that has disappeared. But the interesting thing is that also in those early days of my career, I understood that, let me say, the basic of all of this, the foundation was electronics, hardware and software. And of course, it's always, a question of make or buy. What do I do on my own? What do I do in the outsource, near source? But basically, it was all about electronics in different markets. So it was, to me, it was relatively natural, I would say, that many years later, after many, let me say, career steps in the telecommunications, like as CEO for British Telecom in Germany and Austria, or a leading, a startup and making it big, like Enphone in the unified communication as a service industry. This was all interesting to understand the dynamics in growth industries as well as in mature industries, and to understand the difference on how small, fast-growing companies are operating and how big industrial conglomerates are operating. So I think this brought me into the perfect position that when in August 2018, Klaus Weinmann, the founder of Kencom, one of the big IT service providers in Europe, asked me to have a conversation about the electronics markets. He and I, we were able to put all the dots together, and which was about, how's the market standing today? What will most probably happen within the next 10 years, and how can we take advantage of this and maybe build a player which can play a major role in this market, at least in Europe, but in the second or third step, then even on a global kind of scale. So this was the foundation. So Prime Pulse, which is the family office of two very successful families, Klaus Weinmann from Kencom and the Kobers from Alco, they, I would say, by chance, managed to acquire a company in the end of 2017, which was the Steka Group. And this was more, I would say, out of friendship, because Steka was in deep trouble economically. And they acquired this company, and they did everything in order, to make it successful again. And then they were just, on this path to make it successful again, to restructure it. And then in summer 2018, there was the opportunity to acquire the electronics company or daughter of the Katrine Group. They were doing antennas and all those kind of things and satellites. And then Klaus, and he's a very clever strategist, Klaus said, if we do this, we need a strategy. It's not just that we acquire now the second electronics company. There must be something more behind, just doing, pearl of strings of electronics companies. And this was exactly the inflection point where we sat together and discussed, our views on this industry. And what we found was that the characteristics of this industry were very similar to the IT services company, IT services company landscape, something like 20-30 years ago, more 30 years even, which was an extremely fragmented market, many small players, family companies, etc. So several thousand companies in Europe, many of them being heavily dependent from 2 or 3 customers. They are only surviving because of the low interest rates. And many of them also have succession problems because it was kind of a, the father or the grandfather, even they founded it, and they were just delivering electronics, to one of the bigger Mittelstands companies nearby, around the same church. So this was, the beginning of the electronics industry, but nothing had really changed since then. And what we also found is that there was a big and bigger dependence of the European companies, all the export, world masters and hidden champions, from electronics. Electronics is becoming more and more complicated, and you need a lot of innovation if you want to keep pace there. But at the same time, let me say the electronics become more and more in terms of the added value in each and every product and system and solution. So while the importance of electronics, is growing or even exploding due to IoT and all the things during the last couple of years, there's still an absolutely inadequate landscape of electronics partners for the entire industry. And there are only very, very few European companies which are, capable to serve all the European players, in an adequate way with electronics know-how. When I'm saying electronics know-how, it's not only the production of electronics components, so the classical PCBA. That's one part of it. It's an important part.
But much more.
But it's just one part. So, what we thought is, let's maybe do the same what happened in the IT services industries, 2 or 3 decades before. Let's consolidate the market, and let's offer to those European companies, let's offer them that we are building, a strong, at least number 2 in Germany, and maybe, one of the top 5 or top 10 or top 3 companies in Europe. Being able to help them not also become in this industry 100% dependent from Asian and US players. Because if the know-how, like we saw with the semiconductor, in the semiconductor area or in the PCB area, if more and more know-how is going there and electronics becoming more and more important, then we will have crisis meetings and sessions in 10 years saying, how can we bring this industry back? And now it's still not too late. So we can do something to be more or less independent, with this industry, having the know-how, having the people, having the engineers, and also having the production capabilities here. So this was basically the strategy. This was a half-hour meeting. It sounds like much more complicated. It was a half-hour meeting in August 2018. And then Klaus and I, we were, absolutely aligned to say, let's do something out of it, acquire this Kathrein Electronics daughter, and then let's establish, let's found KATEK SE as a new company, and let's make something happen. And the vision was, Phil, that within 5 years, we will do then an IPO in order to nurture the future growth. And in 5 years, we will go to something like €500 million of turnover. So this was the original plan where everything started, and then we started in January 2019.
Yeah, so you started in January 2019. You've already achieved your 5-year plan, which is pretty amazing.